Okay, let's get to it on both sides. We've got a panel to discuss the latest developments. Kristin Mink, she's a D.C. teacher, activist. She supports Professor Blasey Ford. Hunter Estes, Georgetown University student and alum from Georgetown Prep. And David Warrington, he's vice president, Republican National Lawyers Association. Let's start with the two Kavanaugh supporters. You feeling pretty confident tonight, and why?
Bruce, I think the Kavanaugh nomination is going to go forward, and it certainly looks like he's got the votes tonight. While there's still a number of questions with a few of the swing votes, nothing in this latest investigation has come out to suggest that there's any corroboration to the allegations that have been made against him. And I think the additional time has actually worked in the favor of Judge Kavanaugh and proven that the allegations just are not corroborated.
Yeah. Hunter?
I'd agree. And beyond the political front, too, not only am I confident in his placement on the Supreme Court, but I'm more confident now that he has the opportunity to return and rebuild his reputation that he's built over a lifetime so far. It was once quoted after an investigation that was proved to be falsified, a high-profile political operative questioned after the court found him innocent, where do I go to get my reputation back? And that's the question that I see now is the confidence that hopefully he can prove himself once again to be the man that he has acted to be for the last 35 years.
That begs for a follow-up. And so he will prove it how? By how he conducts himself on the court, because this alone doesn't get him where he needs to be, right?
That's exactly right. And I think not only in the character that he has displayed in his personal life and beyond as an active member, as a service, as a volunteer, as a churchgoer, but beyond that too, we have 300 cases in which he has shown himself to be a stable-minded, fair judge, and I think he'll continue with that.
Kristin, you think it's over, except for the shouting on the part of the Republican supporters of Kavanaugh?
It's not over. At last count, Grassley said that he still had not heard from all of his senators yet, so his whipping is not complete. And so I think that until we get a final vote, it's not going to be over, because there are still some senators out there who are ready to vote on conscience, who still want to defend American institutions, and who still want to stand up for women. So those senators, the principled ones, they're still mulling it over. They're still trying to decide, are they going to follow the party line, or are they going to do the right thing?
And you're confident there are enough undecided votes right now that you can still have an impact? You can sway people to vote
It's
against?
Absolutely possible. I mean, we saw Jeff Flake yesterday. He went into or a few days ago, he went into the committee hearing room, and we all thought that it was decided. It wasn't decided. We got to 1:30, we got to the hearing time, and it wasn't decided. He had left the room. So It's not over till it's over.
Let me ask all three of you where we go from here, okay? We've got an incredible divide right now in the country, do we not? Along gender lines, along Republican, Democratic lines, political lines. Where do we go from here?
Well, let me say, I don't think that there's any reason that we need to be divided along party lines on this, because to me that we have two very nonpartisan issues at stake. One of them is the sexual assault of women and how we treat women today, whether we believe them, whether their allegations are worth genuinely following up on, right? And then the other issue at hand is how we're going to treat our American institutions. Jeff Flake says that he wants the American people to have confidence in our institutions. We have the White House using the FBI as a political tool right now. I don't know what could undermine American confidence in our institutions more than that. It's despicable. This is not what the FBI is for. So we have lawyers for these victims who gave the FBI lists of witnesses who can corroborate the testimony of their clients. And it's as if the White House and the FBI, or the White House directive to the FBI, use those lists as lists of people that the FBI could not
Was the FBI used by the White House in this
instance?
instance?
I would push back on that a little bit in two forms. First, I think it's unfair to say that these allegations were not properly followed up on. We've seen this massive hearing. We've seen the full extent of the opportunity by Dr. Ford to provide witnesses. And I think it undermines the sense of the FBI, if I can finish my point. It undermines the sense of the FBI to question their capacity to investigate. And I think, you make these claims, which I really appreciate, about this defense of institutions. But so far, it seems that you only care about the defense of institutions when somebody is in your political favor. And so it goes both ways. It isn't only when somebody is operating in your political conscience what you think is right, that's the defense of the institution. But there's something larger, and I think that provides the base divide here, is that when we think that the Senate is only operating well when we agree with it, that's the root of the problem.
David, what about the claim that there are a number of people who wanted to be interviewed by the FBI, and they simply were not interviewed because they weren't on the list that the White House allegedly gave to the FBI?
Well, there's been a lot of speculation that the White House had some control over the FBI investigation and the scope of it. That's not actually true. That's what's been speculated by some people who have an agenda that wants to push this out further. And
Do you know
longer.
for a fact that the FBI had carte blanche? I mean, do you go wherever the this
Yes, they
investigation
did.
leads you?
Yes,
Okay.
they did.
There are
All right.
current
So-
and former FBI members who have been leaking that that's not the case.
Well,
Okay.
look, we've seen there's a lot of people within different avenues of
Well,
parts
right.
of the
Okay.
government
We'll
that have
know
their own
eventually.
agenda.
Let me ask you guys though. This question about the divide men and women. Men seem to be hung up on. They want to dwell on due process. Where was the corroborating evidence? That sort of thing. Women have a different, stand right here in terms of you want to be taken seriously. You want your allegations to be investigated thoroughly. How do we bring it together?
Those two things are not in conflict with each other, right?
Well, actually, let's go back to the facts of this case. There's nobody that's going to argue that women who have experienced sexual assault shouldn't be taken seriously. What we have, though, here is an allegation that is uncorroborated.
That's factually inaccurate. That's just not true.
Well, there is not a single person that has corroborated any of the facts.
Well, she
That's
says
just
that's,
not true.
that's due to the investigation.
Well,
though,
and
not
if
to
you-
the
it's also
if you
just
go
not
to-
true.
It is true. If you go to the investigation and the claim that there are additional people that want to be interviewed, if you look at the list
Okay.
that Dr. Blasey Ford's lawyers have put forth, there's not a single fact witness there, except for the polygraph examiner. I'm going to address that second. But the other witnesses that they say should have been interviewed, none of them were at the party.
Okay.
None of them were there. They're character witness for Dr. Blasey Ford that is going to say that she is credible.
Right, I got it. I don't want to retry the cases, even though it's not a trial. What I was trying to get at is we've got to move on at some point in time.
Let me.
If I can jump on that, I think at the end of the day, we're all in Washington, D.C. here. I think these cases get over-politicized, and when we spread that off to the entire nation, that this is the heart of the issue, and I think we overplay the divide that actually exists.
Who's more energized, Republican voters or Democratic voters or women, if Kavanaugh is confirmed? Who's more energized right now?
I have never been more full of rage ever in my entire life.
Okay.
And I'm taking all of that into campaigning.
President Trump is certainly trying to get his party energized
I think the
and make
Republican-
this about himself as much as it was about Kavanaugh. Are Republicans energized?
Yeah, I think the Republican base is energized, and what you're seeing on the other side is that rage is overcoming logic, and emotion is overtaking logic, and that is a very
a lot of women are
dangerous-
going to take exception.
Well, look,
I really need to respond to that.
gentlemen,
if I may.
guys are susceptible to that as well
Okay.
on the other side.
Okay.
So what we need to do, Bruce, to get to your question about where do we go from here, is we go back to basic principles. We go back to understanding that we have a system in this country where people are innocent until proven guilty. And even though this isn't a court of law, those principles, they're part of our basic culture.
I got you. Okay, Kristin, go ahead.
Okay,
Where
I
do
would
we
just
go?
like to bring some logic to the table. And that is to say, I think that there seems to be some confusion amongst senators or the general public or whatever about what corroborating evidence is. Corroborating evidence, as I think you surely must know, right, is evidence that helps to support the claims that are being made. If we say that the only way we can take these allegations seriously is if you have an eyewitness or if you have some kind of physical evidence, a ripped shirt with Kavanaugh's handprints on it, right, then you are going to eliminate the possibility for almost every sexual assault survivor to get justice. What
Okay.
you need is other witnesses who
Going
can
to give you a
corroborate
chance to
bits and
respond,
pieces.
and we're going to continue this conversation. Okay, we're going to throw out everything else. We're going to come back to it, but we've got to move on. We've got a panel here, and you guys have so much to talk about. Was this as much a referendum on Donald Trump as it was on Brett Kavanaugh?
I think that's part of it, Bruce. But I do think this goes back to the issue of Roe versus Wade. That's what this case or what this confirmation battle is all about. There have been senators that weren't going to vote for this nominee regardless of how qualified he was from a legal perspective and background perspective. And throwing Donald Trump and all the politics of that into that just made
Let
this a
me just
combustible.
push back a little bit.
Sure.
Let's say Kavanaugh had withdrawn, okay? The president would have just nominated somebody else with the same position, okay? So,
And
I mean, does that really hold water?
I
what
think
you're saying
so,
there?
because you would have the same concern from Democrats and people on that side of the aisle about overturning Roe versus
So you
Wade.
think Democrats are just hell bent on stopping whatever?
Well,
Yes.
it's worth keeping in mind, from the beginning, that's what it's been. It's now been a turn away. We saw Cory Booker, Senator Booker, the other day just say that it doesn't matter if he's innocent or guilty. And that's the problem that I have. Is Senator Hirono said on CNN in an interview that his credibility is called into greater question because of his supposed political positions, and
Gotcha.
that's the divide we have in the country
Okay.
right now.
So,
Kristin?
Yeah, so we have, a retired Supreme Court Justice, Justice Stevens, a lifelong Republican, came out and he said that he believes Brett Kavanaugh should be disqualified from the Supreme Court because of his partisanship. So he disqualified himself no matter what your position on these issues when he came out and he started throwing out Clinton conspiracy theories,
All right,
and
hold
Democrats.
on. Okay, got it from all three of you. We're going to be right back. Stay with us.